Anthony Hernandez is a better fighter than Khamzat Chimaev. So I'm gonna do my best to break everything down. And look, I'm even doing. Hold on, is this picture gonna pop in? I'm even gonna do a UFC game style stat page for him because I think that'd be funny. And honestly, I see other people do this, and I never like it because they mirror what the UFC game does, where they give everybody a 90 or a 91 or a 92. I'm gonna try and be like more accurate and more realistic about these things. So currently, the stand up, the grappling, and the health, right? Those are all big question marks, and we're gonna go through all those things, and then I'm gonna give the score basically that I have for him at the end of like those chapters. But to start off, I do have this thing written, and that is pressure fighter slash slow burn opportunist. That is the archetype that I have decided for Anthony Hernandez. Now, what I mean by that, I think pressure fighter is pretty clear, right? He walks forward, he shoots a lot of takedowns, and he puts pressure on his opponents. He likes to dictate how the fight goes. Now, for slow burn opportunist, that is different. I don't think that's a thing people have really said before, but I think it fits him perfectly. And what I mean by that is he's an opportunist in the same way that I guess Khamzat Chimaev is an opportunist, right? Where somebody gives him their back, he will absolutely take their back. But he doesn't take those opportunities for the same things that somebody like Khamzat would do, or oh my God, Charles Oliveira, right? Both those guys are diving for sub attempts to get the finish in the first round. Anthony Hernandez maybe has like one first round finish in his entire career. Somehow he'll grab the back or the neck like 30 times in a fight, and he only has like two submissions in his entire career. So, what I really mean, and I will go into a lot more detail about it, but what I do try to convey here by saying slow burn opportunist is that he's constantly taking advantage of the opportunities that his opponents are giving him, but he's not rushing them. He's not necessarily forcing them. He's just taking them and using them to like chip away at his opponent. Sure. Oh. Sorry. I realized that he looks kind of sad, so I tried to give him a smile, and then I realized that the smile didn't really work because his eyebrows have sort of like a sad expression. So I tried to smudge out his regular eyebrows and give him new ones that are meant to express like some sort of elated, expression. But I realized that didn't really work either. He sort of just looks worried, like there's a gun being pointed to his head, and it's frankly it's because of his eyes. But I don't really know how to like change his canthal tilt to make him happier. So instead, boom, I gave him a thumbs up. Are you guys ready to get into this video? Because I certainly am. All right. Being in the driver's seat. I start with striking in all my breakdowns because it's kind of easier to approach, I think. And also, it's just more attention grabbing. I know Anthony Hernandez is a grappler per se. Like, I think most people would call him a grappler, but he himself likes to call himself a kickboxer. Kickboxing was his first martial art. And you do see a lot of cool things in his striking, which he needs to set up his takedowns in the first place. Because every fight starts in the open space, which is the striking. All right. He's very boxing heavy. I know the picture that I use is him throwing like a spinning wheel kick. I just think that picture looks awesome. But he is extremely boxing heavy. I don't necessarily think it's to his detriment entirely because the fact that he's boxing means he can strike while moving forwards and continue that pressure game and strike into takedowns a lot easier. It's very hard to kick into takedowns or kick while moving forwards or, put somebody all the way against the cage with kicks. He does have really diverse shot selection and he does have natural power. The reason I say natural power is something I will also get into in a moment. So I should probably just start listing all the bulletins and the things on the page because I do talk about everything I list. He's very accurate and he's fearless, and I really mean that. I think that is such a great advantage that he has. That's not something you can really measure as like striking or grappling or health. I just sort of have it on the striking because I think it's the most apparent there. But he's fearless. Like he will be fighting somebody who looks twice his size, who looks like he hits twice as hard, and he will be just boxing him up, and it is so fun to watch. But he has the highest accuracy in UFC middleweight history. And I was first looking up his statistics because I knew he had some records. He has some really impressive stats. In fact, ones I don't think the UFC even tracks right. I think he might be better than some of the UFC stats are saying. For example, they give him like, I think they say he averages 2 submission attempts a fight. He averages like 12 submission attempts a fight. I don't know why they do that. But yeah, he has incredible striking accuracy. He's super high volume with his strikes, though he does kind of get hit a lot. He does put himself into the firefight, but his striking defense on paper is about average. I would say 45% is probably the average, like the 45-50% range. But there's a reason he gets hit, and he usually manages to avoid the important shots. So yeah, let's get into it. I kind of originally started this as describing him as having like two states, right? Like when he's composed and when he's like in chase, because I do think there's a difference. For example, when it comes to footwork and like closing the distance, he will sort of stalk and like move his head back and forth, like I talked about how Vallejos and Topuria do. You know, they have that lolling motion, but he's a lot faster with it. Like he'll go left, right, left, right, left, right with his head moving like shoulder to shoulder, and he gives a lot of different looks, and he uses jabs and double jabs, tripling jabs sometimes to cross pretty large gaps at a time. That's my do you like my awesome graphic? I wish I had like a big pointer finger thing I could show you, but I would imagine you're looking at how in the first picture he's got his foot on the monster logo, and on the second one, after one jab, whoa, his feet are completely off the monster logo. Isn't that awesome? I hope that Discord notification didn't show up for you guys. Anyways, and then while in chase, right? That's the second part. He looks completely different. His rear foot is off the ground while he's landing these punches. He's winging punches with his hands completely away from his head. I said 0 defensive regard. That's a bit exaggerated, but it's probably only about 10%. And yeah, I circled his rear foot there. And if you can see, the guy he's fighting, Rodolfo Vieira, isn't punching him in the face. And you're like, well, but Flounder-Sturk, I see that dotted line right there. Why isn't he punching him in the face? Why isn't he throwing that in a straight line and dinging him in the chin? The answer isn't I don't know, but sometimes it is. Generally, he seems to have a good idea of when the opponent is hurt and when he can do those kinds of things and get away with them. He is, frankly, rarely caught in this kind of state. When he's like acting very reckless, he's usually timing it pretty well. He just ends up doing it a lot in his fights. Here's an example of him being a bit more composed while he's chasing somebody. I really like this demonstration. I have the pictures numbered in the order that they happen in. Pretty great, right? Throws a punch. He's from the southpaw stance. He's throwing a rear straight. Lands it flush because Josh Fremd is a golem? I don't know. I'm trying to think of like a creature or like automaton that is like notably absent of thought. You know, I think if Josh Fremd's corner weren't constantly saying, Josh, keep your hands up, he probably would just have his hands at his side the whole fight. But anyways, lands it rear straight, and then like sort of has this awkward shuffle stance, and then just immediately like spreads his legs again to jump into the next stance, and he throws a body shot to sort of like disguise the shot changing. But he's angling 90 degrees and switching stances to close the distance, and it's awesome. I keep following up with, and it's really great, and it's awesome. I can't help it. I think it's awesome. And then he shoots immediately after, right? He is so good at chasing the opponent in these moments. He cuts the cage really well, and if the opponent pivots out, he will continue to chase them. Like, he's ran halfway across the octagon before, and the second they stop moving, he just shoots a double leg every single time. He's relentless. This is just, again, like highlighting his accuracy. He hits around the guard a lot, and I wanted to talk about it specifically because I feel like it's something people don't notice. And I'm not I guess I kind of know why that is. I think he sort of has this, or I don't know, this aura, or he's often described as somebody who can be a little reckless. I did just talk about how he gets a little reckless, but he is still accurate when he's attacking. Like, this is in the exchange where I'm calling him reckless. If you notice, this is also Rodolfo Vieira, who's also backing up with his hands sort of awkwardly in front of his face, just like the last shot. And Regardless, he's like, the second he's against the fence, he's framing with his left hand, firing straight around the guard. He fires through the guard, around the guard. He kind of does everything to not hit gloves. I think his accuracy, 63%, probably lines up, but frankly, it just looks like it's so much higher. It looks like he's more accurate because he's landing very, very cleanly. And a lot of the time, the shots that are landing on the guard, he's throwing to hit the guard on purpose. I think he has really creative boxing combinations, and he will chain multiple same-side attacks, which is something you'll see people like Jack Della Maddalena do. It's very, very rare, and it doesn't necessarily sound super impressive, but when you think about how basic fighters can be in their striking, and simple they can be, and predictable they can be, doing something as simple as like a right straight in the first picture, and then chaining that right straight into a right uppercut instead of a left-hand attack is enough to really get somebody second guessing. He's also brilliantly using the right uppercut there because he's backing Rodolfo up to the fence with his right straight, and then the second Rodolfo's against the fence, the only option he has is to shoot the takedown, right? He's been really slow this entire fight, and anytime he gets hurt or pressured, he just shoots a takedown. So what Anthony Hernandez does is he just predicts it by throwing the right straight and then immediately chaining it into like one of those swinging bus driver uppercuts. It's great. He was throwing a lot of uppercuts in this fight. It seems like he has really great eyes. It's something I super admire in fighters. And it's not always easy to tell, but once you go frame by frame or even just like rewatch certain segments, you can definitely see when a fighter sort of is more aware of what the person's doing than the average person. Because I would honestly say not a lot of fighters would be like chaining into uppercuts like this against a wrestler, even if they really, really should be. I also think his clinch striking is awesome. It is actually some of the best clinch striking I have seen in the sport, and I really do mean that. Defensively, he's pretty sound, but he's almost always the aggressor, so it doesn't really matter. If somebody like lands on him in the clinch, he will either fire right back or he'll just immediately shoot a takedown to like thwart people from wanting to engage in this clinch striking affair. He sort of makes it his game where he gets to throw as many elbows as he wants, and then the second they try to throw back, he'll just shoot a takedown. So they're kind of forced to just keep their hands by themselves, either at their sides or in front of their heads, so that way they're never too far away from the takedown attempt itself. He's throwing up elbows in the clinch, which is awesome. He's throwing elbows from every angle. He throws great knees. I would say he doesn't necessarily knee to the head that much as he does like knee to the body, but his elbow striking diversity is incredible. In fact, going back in one of the exchanges, I don't think I actually got the picture of it. Yeah, it's in this exchange where he's like chasing Vieira. You can see how his elbows are so awkwardly flared when he's punching. Yeah, you can sort of see it here, the way he's like kind of punching downwards. It's not like the worst thing in the world, but it's pretty awkward. And you definitely see it more in other exchanges. Like here, actually, I would say here his elbow's fine. But here, where it's like kind of tilted downwards, I think it's preventing him from hitting super cleanly. Oh, I skipped too far. There we go, back to where I was. However, that sort of awkward posture he has with his elbows, he's also throwing in the same direction that he would throw an elbow. So it sort of does maybe like make those strikes more difficult to predict because he will like arc his punches and his elbows in the same way where he like flares his elbow at. But I don't know, that feels like a little bit of a reach, but you never know what kind of subconscious assumptions like fighters are making, because it's not like they get to react to every shot. They just have to subconsciously sort of like hope their body predicts what's coming. So yeah, I guess there's totally a realm where something like flaring your elbow when you throw, two of the same or two different strikes, right? Like having the same initial startup is like a nice little feint you could add to your repertoire. However, I do think he actually loses a bit of the power when he does those awkward like arm positionings with his punches. Next up, he doesn't lose focus when hurt, because this was the example I was talking about, right? He's firing in the clinch. He threw like 6 elbows. He gets punched like square in the jaw, and he like has to compose himself. He literally like stops punching to like frame on this guy's body, and then he immediately, second later, backs up, throws one shot to the head. Then while the guy's guarding his head, he like throws multiple shots to the body, and then shoots a takedown immediately after. It is so nice. Because we talk about this a lot, right? Fighters, when they get hurt, lose composure and they lose focus and they lose their game plan fast. It really only takes one hard body shot or getting rocked once where a fighter is either like, A, I need to get this one back, or B, holy shit, I'm down the whole round. I need to like throw everything into this next punch. Anthony Hernandez doesn't care because he throws so many punches that getting hurt once doesn't mess up his game. So if that helps, and if it would help more, to give another example, somebody like Israel Adesanya, right, can be fairly low output. And that's why he needs a perfect game. Max Holloway is super high volume, and he's a great striker, but he doesn't necessarily need to be perfect to win rounds. Whereas somebody like Adesanya, who's lower output, does, because all he has to do is like get hurt once, and suddenly the round is even, or maybe in the other guy's favor. Somebody like Anthony Hernandez can land 100 punches, and that way if he gets hurt once, all he has to do is just not die, and he probably still wins the round. But yeah, going straight to the body after getting hurt is so interesting. It makes you so confident in somebody who can stick to a game plan like that. Like, he knows how he wins, right? He's very, very aware of exactly what he needs to do to win this fight, and that isn't to like go headhunting against Marc-Andre Barriault and go slugging out with him. It's to regain composure for a second and then immediately just keep trying to break him down like he normally does. Yeah, so this, I didn't know where to put this, but this is definitely like an open space thing. He constantly gives different looks when he's moving around. And this is what I sort of talked about when I meant like, oh, he's like, I guess, quickly lolling. No, he's like rolling his head around, looking left and right and stuff. But you can see Marc-Andre Barriault throws like a jab in this exchange, and Anthony Hernandez is doing 4 different postures, right? He's like standing still, he's like doing a high guard, he's like sliding all the way backwards, he's like shuffling left and right. He gives a lot of looks, and I think it makes him very hard to track, and it also just makes it demotivating to try and track him. And I think he has a lot of success in open space because of it, because it's sort of like continues playing into his game, which he's great at doing already, where fighters are like, oh man, this guy won't stop moving, so I'm going to wait until he comes to me. The problem is Anthony Hernandez is really good at coming to you. He's really good at bringing the fight to you already, so it's not something you really want to wait for. However, because he's so awkward to hit on the outside, you kind of have to get into a firefight with him to land on him super clean. However, this is a big issue. He's really unsafe while moving backwards. He moves backwards a lot. He pivots when he's aggressive, but he's not very good at pivoting when he's being defensive. He will start to circle like once he hits the cage, but that's not ideal, right? You don't want to see somebody back into a straight line and then just get hit with straight shots. However, his defense is so weird because he's really good at blocking shots that are to the right side of his body, right? I guess like because he's southpaw, right? His left foot is forward, so his body is facing his right side. So he's just very vulnerable to his left side, and this is a thing that happens even from when he's like in orthodox stance, which he does occasionally enter. But yeah, it gets him hurt a lot, and it gets him caught a lot. And like somebody like Josh Fremd, I don't think is very good. I think in some ways Josh Fremd could be underrated. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's cut from the UFC, but Josh Fremd did sort of land on Roman Kopylov. It's not like the worst thing in the world to get hit by Josh Fremd. And Anthony Hernandez did absolutely win this fight outside of like this exchange and one other where Fremd shot a takedown. But it's not super hope inspiring to see that. However, knowing that he's able to get rocked and then can immediately block a head kick like the right way is a good thing. But yeah, there's just something worth noting, I think, absolutely, about his like defensive habits, is that he drops his lead hand a lot when he's being defensive. It's actually something that Kevin Vallejos does as well that we were talking about. A lot of fighters are using this Philly shell, and it's getting them mixed results. It's hard to say it's like unsuccessful because they're doing a lot of good with it, but you just really don't want to just drop your lead hand by your side like that if you're not planning on immediately attacking. Where are his hands? Yeah, this is another example of like punches being thrown at him. I could have done 100 of these, and you're just like, what is he doing? What is he doing with his hands? Sometimes he's throwing a punch back, but the punch he's throwing, he's out of position to land cleanly on, right? So if you look at the two shots where he's throwing punches, that being the rightmost one and the one to the left of that, he's not in a position where he would be able to land with enough power to stop the other person from throwing anyways. I think that is a big issue in his game, where sometimes he lands with great power because of where his feet are planted, but he's so often just not really planted in a way to hit hard. And it's not just about like getting a knockout. It's that like if his opponent is fully aware when he's in and out of position, I feel like they could probably take big advantage on that by feeling a lot safer to throw and a lot more comfortable to throw strikes when he's not going to be able to fire back with, you know, anything that could really stun them. Overall stats, yeah, I did it. I did the UFC thing. I gave him a striking value of 67, which is very good. Oh my god, it's like if you give a movie a 7 out of 10 these days, or 6 out of 10, everybody gets super offended. Those are good values. 67 is saying he's very above average compared to other like UFC fighters, and I agree with that. I think his striking is better than people think. I think it's considerably better than a lot of other UFC fighters. He's super high volume, extended combinations, great shot selection. He cages the cut well. He cuts the cage very well. His footwork's really aggressive, and I do think it, as much as I have been talking about how his footwork is like getting him hit or, you know, taking some power away, he is doing a lot to close the distance and get to the clinch where he wants to be. And yeah, natural power, because even when he's out of position, he is still able to land with like decent pop. Like he hurts people a lot. He throws to the body really often. He works his super aggressive and violent game. He has underrated head movement and defense, which I do really believe. However, he backs up in straight lines. He doesn't plant his feet, and he doesn't kick that often. And I know I said that being boxing heavy is fine and not a bad thing, especially when you're planning on moving forwards a lot. Like, you know, why would you even want to throw kicks? However, even something as simple as a teep kick could help back his opponents up to the cage a lot. He does cool leg kicks, and he does cool spinning kicks. And, like, we see that he can do these things. And there are times where he's backing up. There are times where he's not always pressuring. And it'd be cool to see more variety in his, like, kicks from open space. He drops his hands when throwing power shots, but, like, everybody in the sport does that, apparently. He's extremely vulnerable left side, and yeah, doesn't respect body shots. That's something I didn't put in these pictures, but people talk about how he gets hurt to the body a lot, and he does, but I do think a big part of that is that he just doesn't care until it happens. Somebody will throw to the body, and he won't really defend it at all, and he will just walk forwards. You know, he'll keep a high guard. Somebody throws to the body, he's like, I don't care. And then somebody throws to the body, but it's way harder, and then he like almost fucking dies in the octagon. But yes, 67 is very good. Do not be dissuaded, Anthony Fluffy Hernandez, who's definitely watching this. Oh, there, boom. This is the subscribe part. I keep forgetting to tell people to subscribe. But yes, you should do that. If you like this video, I want to do more like this. I want to do cool presentations, cool graphs. I feel like I've been pretty consistently making my videos better and better, and I have no plan on stopping that. All right, next part, Violent Intent. That is the title of the chapter that is about his grappling and, well, basically everything that I haven't already talked about. He has relentless takedown attempts. He uses takedowns to land punches and punches to land takedowns, which means he's not Merab. He isn't Merab. People will call him Merab, middleweight Merab. That is an insult. Anthony Hernandez is way cooler, and I think better. I do think better than Merab, but most importantly, he's way cooler. And that's why you should watch him fight this Saturday. You should watch all his fights, because he's so sick. He hurts people. He does so many things to hurt people. He will give up position to make his opponent think they can get back up, and then he will take them right back down again just to break their spirit. I do believe he genuinely wants to hurt people. I've watched his interviews. It really does seem like he enjoys it. He could have ended fights so much earlier than he has. He's admitted that he could have ended his 5-round fight with Michel Pereira in the 3rd or 4th round, but he just wanted to hurt him. Anyways, grappling stats. Takedowns per 15 minutes, 6.27. That is a lot. Takedown accuracy, 45%. 45%, that's pretty decent. Takedown defense, really good. Submission attempts, that's a lie stat. However, in the UFC middleweight division, He has the highest control time with an hour and 3 minutes of control time. He's the highest control time percentage and the highest top position percentage. He's spending near half to a majority of his fights in the top position. It's really impressive. I shouldn't have to tell you that it's really impressive. You should be able to look at that and go, whoa, because Merab isn't doing that. That's what makes him so different. Merab does not have 50% like control time or top position, right? Merab's control time is holding somebody's legs against the fence. Anthony Hernandez's control time is raining punches on top of them. Oh shoot! Okay, this is straight into a grappling exchange. I wasn't prepared for this. All right, Barrio postures to get up. So this is against Marc-Andre Barrio. I believe this is in the second round, which is where he finishes the fight, and this is the exchange to get to the submission. This is sort of what I talk about when I talk about how he is an opportunist and a slow burn one at that, right? Because he could have gone for things like this in the first round, and he does, but he doesn't commit to it until he really knows it's there. So, Barrio, the little like yellow lines are just to show like the knee and elbow, because he's posturing up on his elbow, right? He's framing against the floor to get up and to create space. One thing Anthony Hernandez does is he gives people a lot of space to work with, and he likes using it to the advantage. To his advantage. I'm getting better at the speaking thing. For example, Merab likes to just crush you, right? Even if he's in your closed guard, he will just do everything he can to flatten himself on top of you and give you zero space to work with. And that sucks to watch. Anthony Hernandez will take you down and maul you and then give you space to work back up. Right now, this is entirely his doing. Like, he's letting Barrio work back up. He currently, though, he does have his right hand framed on Barrio's wrist. And you're thinking, well, why is he doing that and not taking it away? So what he's doing is he is baiting the fuck out of Barrio. Barrio could be turtled. Do you see that question mark? That's saying his elbow could be there. He could be getting on all fours. However, instead, he's just working on fighting the grips, I guess to like avoid a rear naked choke or whatever, possibly because he just got slammed on his head and doesn't really know what to do next. And that's cool. But regardless, Fluffy baits Barrio into breaking grips, which keeps Barrio's left hand busy, right? Barrio is trying to fight off Fluffy Hernandez's grips, which means he's not really fighting to get back up. He's sort of just staying in this awkward position. And the problem with every transitional position is that you're not really defending yourself to the best of your abilities. And so if somebody can keep you there as long as possible, they will eventually find an opening. For example, here, Fluffy pulls his hand back, right? Barrio's grabbing onto it, but Fluffy pulls his hand back and stuffs his hand into Barrio's armpit and then uses his other hand to grab onto Barrio's wrist. Right? So he's still like trying to hold on to Barrio's wrist, trying to put weight on his arm so it's harder for him to just like stand up. And he's hiding his fist in Barrio's armpit. And you're like, why would he be doing that? And so what I'll tell you is that if you grapple long enough, eventually you sort of get this spider sense when it comes to different things. You can sort of tell when somebody's arm is hovering around your neck. And if Barrio could feel that, right? If Anthony Hernandez's hand, instead of being in his armpit, was just right above it on top of his chest or his lat or his shoulder, Barrio would be like, holy shit, I need to guard my neck. That's right next to my neck. Instead, Hernandez stuffs in his armpit and then just immediately shoots it out and grabs an arm triangle like this. And it's the coolest thing I've ever seen. And he finishes it from there. And that is so awesome. Oh, I love it. All right, next one. This is his fight with Roman Kopel. This is also in the second round. That's where he does his best work, probably. Except for the fifth round, and the fourth round, and the third round. It's just not the first one. All the other rounds is where Anthony Hernandez does his best work. So, right. Hook is in deep while Kopylov posts on both hands, right? So this is what Barrio was basically fighting to get to, right? He was fighting to get on all fours. Anthony Hernandez doesn't fish for rear naked chokes as often as you'd think. And part of that is because he doesn't really want to waste his time. I think it'd be very hard for him to finish a rear naked choke like this against the cage, and when Kopylov is like pretty low to the ground still and is on his knees and could if Hernandez were to fail it, Kopylov would immediately be able to just get on top or get back up, right? So Hernandez keeps this hook in deep. He has the underhook, and then he lets I did watch this. He sort of just lets Kopylov slide out of the hook. And the reason that is because Kopylov is already on all fours. He's already on his knees. He will eventually try to fight back up, and it would be very exhausting for Anthony Hernandez to try and, keep his weight down and do all the right things to stay on top of him, because if he messed up, he would fall over. So instead, he gets up. And if you see, Hernandez isn't on his knees anymore. He's on his toes. He's actually standing up over Kopylov so he can stay on top of him. And now Kopylov is on his hands instead of his elbows. And then immediately, while letting Kopylov get up, Fluffy, before even getting the hook in, grabs the rear naked choke. And part of this isn't just to like threaten him with a choke. It's also, or at least the other effect, is that Kopylov has to carry his weight. If Hernandez went for the leg hooks first before being able to grab the grip, if Kopylov stood up fast enough, Hernandez would just be like hooking a dude who's already stood up, and Hernandez would be like on the floor. Being wrapped around his neck and like controlling his spine and the top of his spine means Kopylov has to carry all of his weight on his back. And then he gets the hook in, and then eventually submits him. Oh, it's so smart, and it's so good. And Murad would never. All right, next thing. This is just talking more about his takedown specifics, right? He throws in combination and then immediately shoots for a takedown against the fence. However, you can see his hands are not together. That's my little yellow lines to show you where his hands are. One's on the left leg, the other's on the right leg, and Kopylov is doing a good job immediately fighting the grips. So Anthony Hernandez switches to a single. You can see his arms are locked around Kopylov's front leg, and then he tries to, run him into the cage. I'm going to say right now, the single leg is not Anthony Hernandez's best thing. He sort of just runs him down, and then Kopylov just gets back up. That's what I was talking about when I was like, oh, Hernandez is doing all these things, so Kopylov doesn't get up, or so that Kopylov gets up, but to his disadvantage. If you're fully committing to a single leg or whatever, and you're staying low while the other guy's able to get height above you, they will generally just stay above you. All right, spins people around from the body lock. I probably could have done the whole body lock trip section better, but he doesn't really do it a lot. I guess you could say he does it a lot in that he does it once in every fight, but he doesn't really do much with it, right? He sort of holds the body lock and then he spins you around. I don't want to call it white belt jiu-jitsu, because I think, frankly, black belts in jiu-jitsu would probably do the same thing. It's just not a lot. It's not really something of great substance or great value, and it only really works against somebody who's willing to go to the ground with you, or if the cage isn't there. It's just so hard to complete against the cage, right? You can't really just throw somebody around because you can't spin them in circle. You can't complete a full circle if they're against the cage. However, this is his recent fights, more recent than the Kopylov fight, his last two specifically, and he's doing body lock outside trips, little, Henry Cejudo was the inside trip, I think. I don't know who else does the outside trips. Somebody else. I could just say Khabib, and I'd probably be right. But, and here, oh God, Brendan Allen. Do you guys see this headlock he has? And, purple shorts around Anthony Hernandez? Anyways, but this time he's spinning Brendan Allen, but he's doing it really aggressively. And frankly, committing to the takedown is 90% of the takedown anyways. But yeah, this is just me pointing out that while he does seem to be a bit one trick in his wrestling, he is improving a lot. And it does seem like in his recent fights, he's doing a lot better. And that is, again, a great thing to see. A lot of these things that I like so much about Anthony Hernandez are just good things to see. As simple as that sounds, there are fighters who look great, and then there are fighters who you can tell are doing the right thing. And it makes me happier to see somebody who's doing the right thing than just somebody who's skirting by on athleticism or bad opponents or whatever. Because the things he's doing, the thing Anthony Hernandez is doing, will work on the worst guy in the world and the best guy in the world, because he's doing the consistent things most of the time. And yeah, by far has the most success with double legs. This is just examples of him picking people up. In the 5th round, he's picking up 200 and I'm going to guess 220 Michel Pereira. Anthony Hernandez is not 220. And he has the strength and the timing and the making other people just exhausted to have a lot of success in that area. However, he does have to be against the cage to get these double legs to work. I have seen 0 open space double legs from Anthony Hernandez. I don't think I've ever seen him score a double leg in open space that didn't have the cage. But that doesn't really matter because he puts everybody against the cage. High level top control, uses Dagestani handcuff to open up strikes. He does really have great top control. I think talking about how he gives up position so much may make it seem like he doesn't have great top control, but this is entirely his decision. And a lot of the circumstances where he's letting people back up, he's genuinely just letting them back up. I do think he's doing a lot to let them work. and he's showcasing the ability to keep them down, frankly, as long as he wants to. You can see here, Dagestani handcuff. I don't know if I should have drawn, but it's in the big picture on the left. He's grabbing with both arms on Barrio's rear arm to stuff it below his body, so his arm is like trapped under himself, and so he only has one hand to defend himself from the punches coming on the right. Boom. Here's him leg riding. You can see Barrio grimace, and I think that's very funny. And you can see, anytime you can see the back fat folding on a fighter, unless they're just like obese, that is like a good thing in some ways, because it means, or no, I guess a good thing is dependent. Fuck, crazy cough. But anytime you see that, that is a sign that they're putting crazy posture or like crazy pressure with their posture, right? He's essentially just driving his like torso and hips into this guy, crushing him with the leg ride, and then he just gives it up to punch him really fucking hard across the head. What is this? I don't really know why there's no cat. Oh no, I do know what this is. I do. Okay, so he has like, I don't know what they call this thing, like some sort of awkward, like not real cradle thing where his arm is accidentally trapped in a crucifix. So he just lets Barrio wrestle up a little bit, and then he immediately like threatens the front headlock and then just skirts around to the back. Right? This exchange is a lot of what Anthony Hernandez does. You see somebody in top side control most of the time, and you're like, okay, I guess we're not going to see anything happen for the next 3 minutes. And no. Anthony Hernandez gets into a dominant position, and then he gives it up because he'd rather just beat them up. And it's great. This is him doing the gift wrap, right? This is not the Dagestani handcuff, but it basically is. It's just over the head instead of like under the body. And here he's grabbing with the rear hand, right? Oh god, maybe I should have drawn or like used picture examples. It's fine. I don't really care. But regardless, the whole point is that he's using advanced top control stuff to land a lot of punches. Here's him straightening out a hook to deter Barrio from standing back up. Not the craziest deal in the world, but it's just about showing the diversity to his grappling skill set. There's a lot that I'm not going over because I'm just not the most skilled guy in the world, but it's more about pointing out things that I think are interesting or maybe a little unique to him or are parts of his game, right? They're like everybody will, Derek Lewis knows how to throw a spinning back kick, but that's not a part of his game. I'm talking about things that are part of their games, and I think this is important because he will sort of mess with people's heads by half the time acting like he's gonna like rush them to the floor and just like put endless pressure on them, and then he lets them back up. I thought there was gonna be a second slide for that, and then he lets them back up and just rains down strikes on them. All right, loves the front headlock spam. Keisa Gatami. That is one of those words for the arm in front headlock thing he does a lot. But regardless, he loves every kind of front headlock. He tries it every fight, and well, it does seem like, oh well, he only has 2 submissions, right? I promise these are working. I'm promising you, even if he's not finishing these fights from this position, he's doing so much. 1, it looks great to have a deep sub. 2, the guy is exhausted and they're going to give up position to get out of it. And 3, by doing all this front headlock shit, he's kind of at a position where he's, if you can look against, what's a good example? Can you see my mouse? Shoot. It's the one where he's doing it against Josh Fremd, where he has his right leg. It's on the right. He has his right leg over the guy's hips. He's like practically there for a back take already from this position. It's really hard to get like a takedown or series top control from the Keisa Gatami when you have like the arm in, because you're sort of like forcing their body in one direction. Anyways, I just wanted to show you this wonderful collage I made. That's the real purpose of this. However, he does get into a lot of submissions. He has been submitted 1 time, and that was like his UFC debut. But other than that, I'm just gonna say he's never been submitted because it's like 1 in 100. He's probably been put into 100 different submission attempts in his like UFC career so far. It is happening so much, and almost every single time he's getting out. And right, other guys get out. His sub attempts, they get out. Right, he gets out, and he gets top control. He gets out and he lands strikes. He gets out and they're exhausted. If he's able to hold subs in the 5th round and all these guys are burning themselves out trying to submit him and failing, then he is succeeding. Overall stats. This is, I'm using the overall thing when I should probably just say stats, right? But anyways, grappling, I give him an 84. That is very, 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 very good, and probably better than other people think he is. but I think he's that good because I think a lot of his mis- mishappenings, is a lot of the quote unquote faults that he has are his choice rather than something he's doing by accident. And I think that matters to me, right? So endless takedowns, he knows when to commit, which I think is very true. Again, he's not Marab. He's not Marab because Marab does this thing. Oh god, Marab doesn't shoot takedowns like 90% of the time. He just flails at the opponent, and then like maybe he'll shoot the takedown from there. Anthony Hernandez shoots a takedown, and he has a great grasp of when the opponent has like hooks or like knows when to stand up or like has great grips or is like going to get grips because he will immediately give it up, let go, and throw strikes. He's doing work with these positions that other people aren't. Great top control, constant submission attempts and submission threats, right? He's getting people to stay under himself by threatening all these subs all the time. He's using strikes to disguise takedowns, vice versa. He has a very strong whizzer. I didn't get a picture of this, but he's a great whizzer. He does this thing where he like grabs his hand that's doing the whizzer. I don't know if that's called like a power whizzer, but I would call it that. He escapes subs all the time. He can squeeze forever. He has like 5-round cardio despite squeezing for subs the entire time. Other people squeeze for a submission and they gas out in the first round. He can do it the whole fight. Excellent ground and pound. He wears people out. They are miserable by the time they get up. He escapes guard really well. He's rarely in guard because he's landing inside control or mount for a lot of his takedowns. And he's a high variety of positions from top control. He kind of never really runs out of something to do and somewhere to attack from. He does give up free positions though. Like as much as I can be like, no, he's doing this on purpose. There are times where I watch him give up a position and I'm like, why did you do that? He does need the fence to wrestle. He's really bad at wrestling off the fence. And big thing I haven't talked about is that he's physically overpowered. I'm actually going to pause right now because I've been talking for so long. I need water really bad. Hello, I am back. Oh shoot, my bad. I spoiled something. I just got water. And I'm feeling a little bit better. So now I have to get back to the part where I talk about how Anthony Hernandez gets physically overpowered. That is a real thing that happens. I think part of the... Oh man, see, I drank my water too fast. Alright, anyways. Anthony Hernandez gets physically overpowered, and I think that's pretty apparent. I don't think I have to like prove it, but I can give you examples. Anecdotally, I don't want to go get more footage. But what happens is he is fluffy, right? I mean, he's not like fat anymore. I think when he entered the UFC, he was kind of a bit bigger, but he is not is not of very high muscle definition. You can just tell, even through this picture, you can see that he has high body fat. And that works to his advantage in a lot of ways. That's why he has such great cardio and whatnot. However, there's so many times where you can tell the guy he's fighting is like 30 pounds heavier than him, and he loses grappling exchanges because of it. People talk about how jiu-jitsu is like the great equalizer in size. It is not. Striking is the great equalizer in size. But in the grappling, it is so hard to lift somebody who's just bigger than you off of you. And so he has to work a lot when he has to like wrestle up from exchanges, and I also think it makes it harder for him to muscle people to the ground. And yeah, shallow takedown diversity. I do still believe that. I did say he's improving, but he's improving from bad to okay. He could do a lot more with it. But an 84 is a great score. He is a very good grappler. Now, for the next thing, the health section. It's a bit shorter because I sort of already talk about his cardio and whatnot. However, I think Anthony Hernandez has the best cardio in the UFC. Do you like this picture of him on the left? I think it's very good. All right. So obviously, if you say best cardio in the UFC, it's Merab. It doesn't even feel like there's a third place anymore, right? Colby is done. Tony Ferguson doesn't exist anymore. Who's good cardio? I mean, there's a lot of fighters with good cardio, right? Volkanovski has pretty great cardio, but I don't think anybody's doing the work that Anthony Hernandez is doing. Merab has great cardio, but if you look in a lot of his fights, he's coasting, whereas I don't think I've ever seen Anthony Hernandez coast in his life. Also, the other thing is that he is lifting guys that are twice his size. If Anthony Hernandez was 135 pounds, I think he would have great cardio as well. However, and you can just tell, right? Because all the heavyweights have shit cardio and all the little guys have great cardio. There's a natural advantage there. So for a dude who's 185 pounds and who has to physically pick up, right? Because he's double legging these guys. He's lifting like 205, 210, 220 pound dudes like on his shoulders and then taking them down. I don't think Merab could do that for 5 rounds. So, and, right, Merab, again, super physically strong. He's physically stronger than a lot of the guys he's fighting. So it's easier for him to get these takedowns. He's also, I don't think he's committing to his strikes as much, and he's not doing any sub attempts. If Merab was doing sub attempts for 5 rounds, he would be gassed out, I promise. Like in the 5th, right? Remember when he was hurt against Sean O'Malley and he's like breathing real heavy? Imagine if he actually did anything against Sean O'Malley in that fight. Like if he was grappling with somebody and they were doing constant sub attempts back and forth. I don't know. I think there's a good chance he'd look really winded by the end of that fight. So yeah, Anthony Hernandez has the best cardio in the UFC, in MMA history, in sports history. Boom. All right, next. Instant recovery, insane poker face. I mean, look at this, right? He gets hit by this this 3-piece by Funny Ribs, Edmund Funny Ribs. That's what they call him. He's like it's like the Joker, but instead of like his dad like cutting his face open, right? He gives them like funny Marilyn Manson inverted Marilyn Manson like rib implants or whatever. I don't think he was born like this. I don't think people can be born like this. I know DeRitter has funny ribs too. I just think they're like secret. Fuck, dude, this water's fucking me up. Oh my god. How am I doing worse after drinking the water? My throat hurts more. I drank. Damn. All right. I'm getting through this. Okay. He gets hurt a lot, Anthony Hernandez. But that's not like because he has a bad chin necessarily. I just think he makes himself very vulnerable in striking exchanges. However, after getting hit by a 3-piece, boom! He just sticks his tongue out. He will give the peace sign. He will middle finger like half the fighters on the roster if he could. He's like Chito Vera. If Chito Vera actually did anything, he's awesome, and he does have a really good poker face. As much as he like gets visibly hurt, he recovers really fast. He's always smiling. He's always defending himself even when he's hurt. And to give him credit, you can't really control how much your body reacts when your body's hurt like that. If he gets kicked in the liver, he's kind of just gonna do that. He's gonna curl over because that's what he does. But yeah, very vulnerable to body shots. So on the third one, right, the one on the far right, that's just Kevin Hall kneeing him the body, and he just immediately fell over. However, against not Marcus Perez, that's Michel Pereira, different Brazilian guy with a top knot. Michel Pereira throws the teep kick. I mean, it's strong, right? It's first round Michel Pereira. It's probably an awful thing to deal with, but it doesn't look insane. However, Anthony Hernandez literally backs up to the other side of the cage and curls over. He does end up winning this fight, but, just giving an example. I do think he's very vulnerable. Overall health stats. This is his best trait. I gave him a fucking 90. He has insane cardio. First or second best in MMA. That has to be like a 99, right? Great composure, fights well when hurt, recovers very fast when hurt. He has a great chin. He really does have a great chin. He gets hit with some crazy shit. And he never burns out from sub attempts. That is such a big deal. People don't understand. They're always like, oh, why does Merab never do submissions? There's a reason. It's not because Merab doesn't know how to do submissions. It's because doing submissions is exhausting. And Anthony Hernandez can do it for 5 rounds. But yeah, he does have terrible reactions to body shots. If I could see, like, I don't know. I guess there's a lot we'll be seeing in this fight against Roman Dolidze, because Roman Dolidze hits really hard. But if Anthony Hernandez is the guy that I think he is, I think he'll do really good. So yeah, that gives him an overall stat of 80 if you add everything together. Shoot, that's it, isn't it? I hope you guys like this video. I want to do more graphics like this. I had a lot of fun, a lot of cool pictures. Frankly, I think this was way cooler than anything the Weasel ever does. And I promise I could do a lot more someday. I just like sort of wanted to get this done with. But if this gets good attention, I could go way more in depth on why he would beat Khamzat Chimaev, because I didn't really talk about that. Khamzat Chimaev is single shot. He has low output. And if he gets to the second round, he will maul Anthony Hernandez. No. He will be mauled by Anthony Hernandez. Hernandez has great submission escapes. And he's had sub attempts from guys who are comparably strong to Khamzat. And he's wrestled with guys who are comparably strong to Khamzat. Not saying he's fought wrestlers who are as good or submission artists who are as good necessarily, but he can deal with the strength, and I think he's a great grappler. And I think there's a really good chance he gets past the first round. If Robert Whitaker, who we've seen how he looked against a Ritter, if Anthony Hernandez gets put against Khamzat Chimaev and Khamzat can't finish him, Hernandez fucking brutalizes him. Anyways, like I was saying, I would love to do more graphics like this, more presentations. I think it could be a lot cooler in the future, but for now, this is all I have. I wish I could use footage, but the UFC copyrights any footage, so I'm just using these pictures. I hope I don't get copyright struck. I wish you all a great night. See you much later. Flounderstruck out!